Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a terrific guest. This is somebody you're just going to love getting to know. You may already know her. She's a local community leader, a business leader, a mom, a wife. She does it all. She's one of these modern day Wonder Women, and she's now kind of a big deal online. She's got her own podcast. She's a reality TV star in the making. Much more coming up. Without further ado, I bring to you our esteemed guest, Erika Hemphill. Erika, welcome to the show. Oh, I think we've got you muted there. My apologies. Let me try to undo that. Let's see here. It says that you chose to mute yourself. We probably hit a wrong button. There we go.
Are we good? Hey, there we go.
Hello and
so
welcome.
You did that great intro, and then you forgot to say that I am not tech savvy. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that was on us. My producers and I inevitably hit that button. So for any viewers watching, know that was part of Team Ponchatoula Live, not Erika. But Erika, thank you for your patience with that. That's one thing when you deal with a volunteer program like this with no ads and no pros. We have little things like that from time to time. But welcome to the show. Why don't we kick things off with you just telling our viewers a little bit about yourself?
So for anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Erika Hemphill, and I am the owner with my husband of ENG Designs and Construction. We are a local residential custom home builder. We are in the process of getting our commercial license. We are also licensed in Mississippi and Alabama, so we can not only build new constructions here, but we can also build new constructions there, and we remodel across all 3 states as well. As you mentioned, I do have a podcast. It's called Escapes by Erika Hemphill, so that's our newest little fun project that we're doing, which is so much fun. I am a mother of 2 beautiful, wonderful children, Arbery, who is 7, and Kipton, who is 12. We live here in Ponchatoula, so it's my hometown. I was born and raised here, and so it holds a true dear place to my heart. So I'm excited to be here, so thank you for having me.
Well, we are proud to see somebody from Ponchatoula be as successful as you are. It's fun to see you and Garland succeed in our community as a husband-wife dynamic duo, and we'll get into that later. And I'm certainly going to ask you much more about your business, what y'all do from the custom build, because I've got friends that have been just so delighted with the homes you built for them, to the other projects you have, such as remodeling, and certainly we'll dig into the reality TV and podcasts and all that. It's something we don't see every day here on this show. You are not the first guest we've had to become a reality TV star. That distinction would go to my friend Jeff Pekavicius, who competed in a barbecue competition. But you are the prettiest. I know Jeff.
Thanks.
But that's really exciting stuff, and I'm eager to dig into it. But before we get there, why don't we kind of turn back the clock, if you will, to your early days coming up around here? What was childhood like? What do you remember fondly from the good old days in the Ponchatoula of yesterday?
So it's crazy for me. Okay, so my husband's not from here. He's from Katy, Texas, and then he moved around a lot as a kid. And so when I tell him that I grew up here and I have a group of friends that I'm still friends with that we still associate with, we just had our high school reunion, and we had it at Strawberry Manor, which obviously that's a new business.
Yeah, beautiful place.
So for me, Ponchatoula has just changed. It has grown and transformed so much since I was younger here. I'll show my age a little bit and say I remember when where the Hi-Ho used to be, the original Hi-Ho here in Ponchatoula.
I did too. I worked there for 4 years.
Yes, we used to go there after school and go and sit and listen to the jukebox. There was a jukebox. And then when Wendy's was on the corner where Walgreens was. And so I think for me, if I look back on what I loved about Ponchatoula, it's still the same thing that I love about Ponchatoula. Although we've grown and we have transformed, and I love that, we're still a small town feel, and I still can walk in places and they still ask how my mom and dad are, or and I love that. I love that because I want my kids to grow up around that too, to know what a true community feels like. So because
when you have a community that cares about you, your parents, and everybody else in your life, it brings us together in such beautiful ways. You know, you see friends go through hard times. You know, recently I've had to go to some funerals and see some people I really admired pass on, and the families go through that grieving process. And it's such a relief to see our community unite behind them. And whether it's old friends that come out of the woodworks that you just haven't seen in years, that's delightful, or new people, it's kind of neat. I mean, you and your husband are such a great example, right? I mean, he comes from Texas. My little brother lives in Houston, so I know where he came from quite well from visiting over there. But we're talking really apples and oranges, right? I mean, that greater Houston area, inclusive of Katy, there's as many people living there as there are in the entire state of Louisiana. It's one of the biggest, wealthiest parts of the whole world. And he goes from there to this little, you know, at one time self-described Mayberry of the Deep South. And yet, you know, we have folks like you who have been here forever, but folks like him who are kind of bringing a new energy. And when y'all come together, you can do beautiful things like ENG, your company, and so much.
Well, look at this live show that you're doing. If we were in a big city like that, we wouldn't have this same opportunity. You really might not know who I am or what my business is. And look how wonderful it is that I get to sit on my own hometown Ponchatoula live show.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because, you know, it came up organically. I see you out at lunch one day. You're having lunch with our mutual friend, Jeff Leschashare, and he had been on the show and done a great job. It was one of our best viewed episodes ever. And he says, man, Erika would be so great at this, you know, let's do it. And here we are. Speaking of old friends that we go way back with and still love, Mandy Franks Braywick's on here. She's got a comment to say hello. And I won't ask you to read that little bitty screen you're looking at, Erika, so I'll kind of paraphrase it for you. But she says hello to us, and she's so excited about this interview because you're one of her favorite friends, and she's so proud to call you and Garland friends in your thriving business, and everything y'all do is so beautiful. So, Mandy, I want to thank you. Speaking of favorite episodes, I of course, loved interviewing my pal, Jeff, but doing your episode was really one of my favorites that I look back on fondly. It's hard to believe we're well over 100 episodes into this show. But to our viewers, I want you to know, if you're watching us live like Mandy is, and I can see here from the little screen that plenty of you are, if you want to comment, please do so. I'm sure Erika is happy to answer questions.
Absolutely.
Happy to welcome any comments you have. So please go down into the comments here, fire away. We'll do our best to respond to you live in real time and to answer your questions. We're here with Erika Hemphill, the owner of ENG Design and Construction, among many other things. We're asking her about growing up. You know, you mentioned people seeing you at the Hi-Ho, ask about your parents. You know, if you will, let's turn back again. You know, you love that about Ponchatoula. As a kid, what was it like growing up in your house? Which schools did you go to? What activities were you into? Just give us a little backstory.
Green Wave all the way. I went to, I was in Ponchatoula Public Schools from first grade all the way through my senior year in high school. What was it like growing up in my house? Well, I lived in downtown Ponchatoula, 2 houses from the Strawberry Festival Park. Where the Strawberry Festival is. And so anybody that really knows me, and if Mandy's still on here, she's going to laugh. That was the place to be during the Strawberry Festival. I mean, my parents had bands there on their own sometimes.
Oh, wow.
We won't say what kind of trouble we would get into, but, you know, I do think that the Strawberry Festival and the Strawberry Festival Parade, I think holds like, I was a Wavette, so I got to march in the parade every year. And so, again, that small town feeling that you get with events like that in our town, you know, I love that. And my parents are still together, and my mom actually just sold her house. She just closed not even 15 days ago. So she just sold our house in downtown Ponchatoula.
Where did they move? Are they sticking around the area generally?
They are. They're living in a mother-in-law suite behind my grandmother. So they're not going too far. Yeah. But, you know, times are changing.
Yeah.
My grandparents are still alive.
Families sticking together. That's great. Yeah.
My grandmother still lives on 6th Street right here in downtown Ponchatoula. So we are still very much heavily rooted here in Ponchatoula.
Yeah. Very neat. Well, you know, like you, I grew up near the Strawberry Festival, so it's had a lifelong attachment to my heart. But you're right. That's where the magic happens. I met my wife there working the Rotary booth many years ago, and we just love it. So moving up through the Ponchatoula school system, my wife, speaking of Brandy, she works as a counselor at the junior high. So I know that as you move up every 2 years or so in our system, each school has a different character to it. But I love asking guests about their experience at PHS, particularly because to me that's kind of the common denominator. If you went to St. Joseph like I did, at least back when we came up, the chances were you went through PHS. Only a few people left town to go to some out of town private school. So PHS particularly, what do you remember there? Who were maybe your favorite teachers? You mentioned being a way vet, activities, friends, mentors, etc. Just tell us a little bit about your time at PHS.
So before everybody starts calling me out on comments or when I see them in town, this is a hard topic for me because as much as I love Ponchatoula and where I graduated and my alumni, my kids go to Holy Ghost. And I get that a lot. Why don't your kids go to Ponchatoula public schools? Things have changed. My mom was a teacher at Ponchatoula High, and we want our kids to have a faith-based education. That was number one for us. And so when I look back on the memories that I made at Ponchatoula High, one of my favorite teachers was Miss Atkins, and I actually babysat for her.
Oh,
and if she ever watches this, she's going to laugh because her and Mr. David will remember that. I used to babysit on the side, and I just loved Miss Atkins, and I still think that she is a true positive mentor to kids. Miss Monastery.
Can I say something real quickly? You must have done a good job because I see their daughter every day when I pick up my kids from carpool. She's now teaching at St. Joseph and doing a phenomenal job. She taught at Strawberry Castle before that. So great family. Thank you for mentioning them, and please do continue.
Miss Monastery. We butted heads because I was very strong-willed, obviously, just like my hair. I'm very different and creative, and she's definitely a rule follower. So she was over the way vets at that time, but I loved her. I still love her. Her son does all my roofing. There's his little plug for Monastery Roofing. And I love Miss Melanie now. She was a huge mentor, and she had a big impact on me as a high school student. And I don't even think that she realized that at the time. Who else? Coach Pye. He's not even there anymore. I think that he teaches over in St. Tammany. But his class was always so much fun. It was health and PE. And I remember, God bless him, because he had a lot to deal with all of those hormones coming into that health class, But I remember it just being fun and being fun. I remember all of our pep rallies that we had. I don't even know if they still do them or how often they do them, but we used to have pep rallies every Thursday or Friday. I can't remember, my brain. That's been a long time, but we had one every week. And we had ribbons that we would buy every week for the home football games. It was a really spectacular and fun place to be. And I hope that students can appreciate that or try to appreciate that time. You will never get that time back. You will never get that time back.
That's a great point. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I think, folks just enjoy that trip down memory lane because some of my guests here went to PHS in the 50s, and they love talking about Coach Shield and Mr. Butler and the icons of that era.
Miss Kay Butler was my speech teacher, and then she also taught me at Southeastern when I went to Southeastern.
Yeah. Oh, she was just the best, man. What a wonderful woman. There's just so many folks, whether it's Mr. Bodker, Mr. Allen, or, just zillions of great teachers. It's been really neat to hear those stories over the years. Let's shift into the next chapter in life. Okay. Eventually, I know you're going to meet Garland. Somehow he's going to migrate from Katy, Texas. You guys will hook up and we'll have two beautiful kids and one big booming business later. How did you get there? Say from the PHS years to today? Obviously, we don't have time to cover it all, but what part of that chapter springs to mind when you think about what came next?
So the elevator pitch is that I went to Southeastern, met Garland, listened to the podcast that I have, and it brings you down that whole memory lane of how we actually got there. Truly. We did an intro section, part 1 and part 2, how we met, how we moved away and came back.
Well, hopefully our producers are listening and they can get a link to that in the comments. If they're snoozing right now at the moment, we'll add it later. But yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great
but I was working for an oil and gas company, and I had gotten pregnant with my daughter, and I loved my job, and I actually still to this day love my boss. I give so many kudos to the business owner, the leader, the boss that I am today because of them. They gave me a lot of freedom at a very young age to really step into a huge role at the oil and gas company, and they let me be creative, and they let me really, I felt like I really was my own boss. They had allowed me that reign. But it came a time where Kipton was starting to go to school. I just had Arbery, and we needed to change. There was a lot of hours. I wanted a little bit more freedom. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. My mom's an entrepreneur. She has started multiple businesses and sold them. And I think I always had that drive a little bit to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what that really looked like. And I can remember I just came home and me and Garland talked one day, and I said, we've got to do something different. And look, he is my number one cheerleader, supporter with all of my crazy ideas that I have and what we do. And he just said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't really know. And so we sat down, and as crazy as it was, we just kind of made a list of things that I enjoyed doing. And one of them was, I used to always drag Garland around to go to these parade of homes and go look at houses, and I always loved it.
I can relate. My wife dragged me to a few of those.
Yeah. And I just said, what if we built houses? And I am not going to lie, I had an uncle that was kind of in the business. My dad and my brother had flipped a few houses, and so I had been around that a little bit, but not much. And it was literally
Garland
just the
was
drive.
not yet a builder. I thought you were going to tell me he was building houses all along, and you just joined up. So you have this bright idea. And what kind of career is he coming from? Is it adjacent to construction or?
So Garland actually didn't join me until after COVID.
Oh,
so I
okay,
actually
cool.
started the business myself, and I ran it for almost 3 years, 2.5 years by myself. And
wow,
then
that's awesome.
COVID happened, and Garland was working for United Site Services. He had been in operations and logistics for almost 12 years at that time. And truth be told, due to COVID, they were doing severance packages and layoffs. And actually, he wasn't on the list to do that, but I was in a place where E&G was growing so much that I was looking for a superintendent. And when he came home and we talked about it, I said, we have to make a choice. Nobody's going to invest in our business the same way that we would invest in it. And nobody's going to care about it more than what we care. I said, what if you made the offer that you would take a severance package to save some of your guys? And he said, I don't know if they'll take it, Eric. I said, well, the worst that they can do is tell you no. Well, the next morning he called me, and he had a company truck at that time. And he said, babe, somebody's got to come get me because they just took my offer.
I need a ride.
I need a ride.
That's
and
great.
Said,
what a story.
Oh, wow. And I think, Parker, my stomach hurt. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready for this. What are we going to do? COVID had hit. Things were shutting down. I was like, what's our business going to do? But then you immediately, as an entrepreneur, you go into that, you know this, you own your own business. We're not going to let it fail. We're not going to let this fail. And so he came on, and we have grown substantially since then. But yes, it was just a thought and a conversation. It really was on where it started. And then it's just been education, education, education.
Well, you guys are acing these tests as you learn as you go, because it's such wonderful things, including what our dear friend Mandy has to say here, that you guys have absolutely the best design and construction. It's just beautiful work. Before I ask you, and I promise we're about to talk about your company and what you do, but you mentioned your mother is an entrepreneur. It sounds like she at least lit a little bit of the early flame in you, her example. That really speaks to me as the son of a female entrepreneur. My mom had an antique store when I was younger. And, you know, while my dad is a huge influence in my life and my absolute hero, watching him be sheriff did less for my entrepreneurial journey than watching my mom, you know, open Layrisson Walker Limited Antiques with her best friend. So what was that like? I mean, what kind of an influence was your mom? What did it mean to you to watch her do it before you did it?
I think it showed me that we're breaking glass ceilings all the time, right? As females, and especially for myself in the industry that I'm in, it's a little bit harder. It also is hard to gain respect a little bit, I think. So seeing her do that and do it multiple times, it always pushed me whenever I was thinking about starting my own business. And it still pushes me now. We have multiple businesses. So for me, watching her do it and be confident in it, she is also one of my biggest cheerleaders now. Anytime I'm doing anything, or sometimes I just call it a vent to her and say, look, what about this? Or, I have this HR thing. What about this?
Yeah,
and so she still to this day guides me. Look, I was talking to her all the way until I got to your front door. So
that's great.
She's a huge part in who I am, the business owner that I am, and the confidence that I have. Because look, I might be shooting myself in the foot, but I have a lot of confidence in myself. I mean, I just started.
You seem to, but you should. What do they say? It's cocky if you can't back it up, but it's just confidence if you can. You kind of got a Joe Burrow-esque effect to you.
Well, I'll take it. But she's a big cheerleader for me, and I love her, and her businesses definitely showed me that we can do it. That's
neat. Well, look, we're about to get into E&G, and I'll bring up your website so we can kind of show it off a little bit. It's beautiful, and talk about what you do. But before we do, I'll flash back here to, in the comments, as you can see, we have the link to Erika's podcast. So folks, I'm sure you're like me, you're loving everything you're hearing, but we don't have time to hear it all. So go check out her podcast and her origin story, her superhero origin story for her and Garland. And that's really neat. But let's finally, with no further ado, dig into your company, E&G. So you guys do construction, obviously, but also design. Tell us a little bit about your company, because I love that you kind of lead with values. This is something that my company does, my law firm. We have 7 core values, and every Monday, the first thing we do after we pray in our meeting is start talking about our values. And I see here you have excellent values. So tell us about these core values and about your company.
So I think a lot of businesses, they start business and then they don't really have, I call it guiding the ship. What's guiding your ship? What's guiding all of your decisions? And so our mission statement, our core values that we believe in as a company is the basis for everything. Whether you're a good client for us, whether you're the ideal client for us, what we're doing, how we interact with our community, everything that we do as E&G Designs and Construction is based around those core values. And look, I am a stickler for, I want to be innovative. I want to have opportunities. I want to have the best of everything surrounding me. And so I think if companies or anybody's listening that's wanting to start a business, start with your mission statement, start with your why. Why do you want to do it? What is your purpose behind doing it? And then find out what are your true core values as a person, because when people get to know, like, and trust you, they will do business with you, and they do business with you based off of your core values and the person that you are. And so these are, they're on the screen. And so I think that if anybody would read those, I think that they all definitely are puzzle pieces to who me and Garland are.
Well, what we'll do is we'll put a link to your website in the comments so that folks can go there and check this out in more detail. But, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said. And I think one thing I'll add or ask you about is, for me at my business, my law firm, the core values, the mission statement, all of that stuff, it's been critical as we've grown. Because when I was a one lawyer shop, me, a secretary or two, it was very easy to stay in touch with core values because they were mine. They were my personal beliefs, and I was doing most of the work. But as we've expanded to 3 offices, 5 lawyers, 18 employees, it gets much more difficult to, not only live that, but also to just kind of know it in the first place, because each of my 18 employees comes with a different set of values. And we can do our very best to screen at the front end to try to get like-minded people with similar morals, etc. But I think it really helps us to talk about it all the time, to have them in writing, to have them posted wherever you can in your business. Has that been your experience? What would you add to that?
So, I am an avid person that announces this to everyone. I have a business coach. I love my business coach. It's the person that gets to hold me accountable as the CEO of a business. Because at the end of the day, really, who's holding the owner accountable besides themselves? And so one thing that they would add, if you would have asked my coach that, which we have implemented at our office, is that they have to be visibly seen It can't just be on a website so that it's just something there that we put down 5 years ago when we started, because sometimes they do change. Sometimes your mission changes. Your overall mission for your company doesn't have to change, but your mission to where you're going and your goals and what you're striving for as a business do change. But at the end of the day, the core values of how you get there have to stay the same. And the way you do that is by constantly seeing them, constantly implementing them, and also having your employees buy into those core values. They have to be able to buy into that. And how do you get buy-in? You get buy-in because you let them have some say in that, and also making sure that they're like-minded.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's a good thing if your core values change, as long as they change in a positive way. Because I look at my career, I've been a lawyer a bit over 20 years. I know with all these gray hair, you'd think it'd be much longer, I'm sure.
Cover them up.
But, you know, I do injury work. I help people when they've been in a big truck wreck or a car accident, and that's all we do. But in the 1,500 cases I've handled since that first one, I've hopefully learned something each time, right? And eventually that learning can help you develop a stronger, better core value. And sometimes that means that value number 5 has to get bumped off the list. You may still live it, but it's just value. There's a new thing come on the scene. And so, you know, I think too many people are rigid and feel like, you know, we're not talking about the 10 commandments here, right? They didn't come down to Moses with tablets. You and I, they came from our head onto whatever we scribbled them with. And I love to hear you talk about coaching. Coaching has been a big part of my practice too. I'm very grateful for those. And speaking of great coaches, the great Marshall Graves, another wonderful episode for folks that want to look back in our videos. He's chiming in here and saying that he's just loving hearing about the implementation of core values. This is a man who knows his principles, his values, lives them. He's out in the community. I was out Monday night visiting him at the community center while he was having a huge positive impact on local kids. Teaching, preaching, and playing a little basketball afterwards, having fun, feeding them, putting his money where his mouth is, so to speak, and more importantly, his time and energy. And then we got back up the next day, and he helped me coach my 7 and 8 year old team. Boys out at part, even though his children are long gone. I mean, his baby is now 6'10". But wherever we are in the community, if you're a small business owner like Marshall, who's a master mechanic, or Erika, or whatever, you know, doctor, lawyer, etc., the concept of values is an important one. Let's talk about the services you provide, Erika. I'll put up here on the website that part. First of all, before we even ask that question, wow, what a showstopper of a home. That's just a beautiful picture. That's gorgeous. Let's talk about what you do. Custom homes, obviously a big part of that. Tell us about that custom home, you know, process, and speak, if you don't mind, specifically that person who might be considering building a home. What questions do they need to be asking? Where do they need to start?
So it's really funny because I'm actually putting a course together, and it's the how-to or the questions to ask for your contractor, right? Because we get a lot of calls. A lot of people are afraid. They hear horror stories about building their own house or building a house with a contractor. And it doesn't have to be that way. I think contractors sometimes get a bad name or a bad rap because it didn't go as smoothly as they thought. And so we try to tell our clients, come in, come sit with us. Maybe that particular story that you heard, it didn't work because they weren't the right fit for each other. Yeah. They're interviewing me and my team just as much as I'm interviewing them, because we have a relationship for a year. Well, we say a year. We like to finish sooner than that, but we put a year on our contracts. And the reason is because I might not be Parker's cup of tea, but I might be Jeff's cup of tea. Or I might be Jeff's cup of tea, but I'm not Mandy's cup of tea. And so you want to interview that person just as if you were interviewing them to hire for any job that you're doing. And so our process is that we like for you to come in, get to know us, ask us questions, tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do. It's like a discovery call. It is a discovery call. And then after that, we'll answer any questions that you have, open and free. It's a free consult. You're not charged for it. And then if you leave and you're like, man, I really like her, I want to do business with her, then we ask you to come back, and then we start working on, do you have prints? Do you have plans? Have you found something online that you like? Do we need to work with one of our draftsmen? We have 3 draftsmen that work in-house with us that can modify or draw prints from scratch. And I like to be a part of that process because I might see things that my clients don't see. Oh, well, I don't really like the way that door swings, or what if we made this
Yeah.
bathroom a Jack and Jill? So it helps facilitate, because we always want our clients to get the best bang for their buck. And walking them through that process makes it an easier journey as we go through the process. And we also help that bathroom. I laugh when I see those diamonds, because my tile guy hated me for that.
It's beautiful.
But we are always trying to we want to have the edge in our market. We want to constantly be learning. And when I learn things and I see design ideas and I see different things, because I follow a lot of designers that are not, they're from New York or California, Arizona, Colorado. I bring that to the table to my clients, so that then their houses are all different. If you go on our website, they are all different. I've never used the same brick at any of my houses. There's not the same tile anywhere, because every house is different. It's tailored to that client. And so we want to make it a very custom experience.
Yeah.
And so the one thing that I know that everybody likes to ask is, what's your price per square foot? If you call and ask somebody that question, you're not asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Because everybody's price per square foot is different based on the product that they're offering you and what's all included in that number. So do yourself a favor, give me a call. I'm going to say me, but give the whoever you're calling an actual chance to bid it out for you, because that's how they find the true price per square foot, is bidding out exactly what you're wanting in your home.
Yeah, because every little thing matters, from the fixtures to the materials. These beautiful diamonds have a different level of quality tile than something you might pick up at Lowe's that was less expensive, and all that affects your bottom line. I would imagine when you're talking about differences, one of the key differences I noticed between your company and others is that you do provide this service of drafting. These design services are kind of baked into what you do. I think back to the various projects I've had, whether it's my office that I'm standing in or my home. We had an architect in one office, usually in a different city, a contractor in another. They do their best to work together. But with you guys, you're kind of spearheading that whole process, or am I right there? And is that bringing a cohesive approach? How does that help?
So we are their liaison. So I have a draftsman that's in Massachusetts, and he likes to draft certain style houses. So if I have a client that comes in that wants to draft a house that his niche is, then I will coordinate with him. If I have someone that wants an Acadian house, I have someone that wants to do that. But I am their liaison, so that they get to come to my table and work with me, and then I coordinate with the draftsman and the architect to get those particulars and order and what they need. And it makes that so seamlessly, because you're right. If you're working with a draftsman that's out of state, you're doing a lot of email correspondence back and forth. Well, technology is our best friend now, right? Because I can get on a call with my draftsman in Massachusetts, and we can talk just like this. And we have Zoom calls, we have shared screens where we can coordinate those things together. And so I think that we've come a long way, but in the same token, we love being a part of that journey, and that part of, and also clients don't know about, well, can this house even fit on my piece of property? So we have a surveyor that works with us too in-house. So we like to call ourselves the one-stop shop. We are the one-stop shop. We can get you from survey to design all in one setting.
Well, and I would imagine there's such a benefit of having that same team, although you're kind of the focal point in the middle in between these various professional service providers. Having you all work together time and time again on projects has to be just huge from a synergy perspective, because I look at my own little practice, car wreck, there are several things that go into that, right? There's the initial thing, I need a ride, right? I mean, you said earlier, your husband called you, I need a ride. For me, my client's car is either going to the shop or going to the scrapyard. Either way, they got to get their kid to school or church tomorrow with a new ride. And so in the old days, when it was just me, I'm doing that. I'm trying to negotiate personal injury claims on the injury side, schedule medical. Well, now as we've grown, we have various teams. There's a property damage team of 2 lawyers that take care of that. And they don't slow down the injury claim while they're handling the property claim. But, they all work well together, because it's the same group of people working on the same project, but coming at it from different angles. And so it sounds like your company, gets a similar boost from that.
So we offer something else too. That's we like to synergize. We like to synergize and be very efficient and effective at what we do. And we're constantly looking at different ways to, continue to do that. But we have an app and a CRM program that we use is called Builder Trend. And I absolutely love it. Our clients love it. It streamlines all of our communication for the projects. Their budget is in there. They get all their selections for each item that they're picking, their tile, their lights, their plumbing. It's all in there. So that as we go through the project, if you decide to walk through your house a month in and you forgot what you picked out when you went to the lighting, you can go in your app and you can see exactly what you picked. So then as we're designing the house and we're building it together, when we go through the process, all of these things are in there. That's where we communicate with our clients. They get scheduling in there, so they are able to pull it up and know exactly who's coming to their house that day, when it's going to be finished. And it's fluid. So if it rains, my project manager goes in there, he moves it over, and then everything behind there changes. So clients know exactly what's going on. We have clients that don't even live here or in our parish, that live across in New Orleans, that we're building houses for, that they might come to their house once a week because they're getting pictures in there, and they're offering and we offer pictures and scheduling daily logs whenever our superintendent or our project manager goes in there. They know exactly what's up and coming. So I think that that's a good innovative tool that we've also put into place.
Well, Garland, thank you for chiming in here. He mentions that being the good partner to you that he is, that you offer remodeling as well.
We do.
I'd love to dig into that if we have more time. But I'm noticing now I've already kept you longer than I, promised. And I know you've got a child to pick up soon here. But before you go, I just got to ask you about Cabin Wars, this exciting opportunity that you and your husband and your company have to actually become reality TV stars. I wasn't kidding earlier, guys. These guys could be the next big thing. How did that come into your life, and what's that process been like, and what do you expect, in the days to come?
So it truly has already been a whirlwind. This will tap right into Mr. Hemphill, since he wrote that we do remodeling. So this show we were approached by Cabin Wars as to apply to see if we could renovate a cabin out at Tangy Pines. And there were like hundreds of applications that came in, and we had to do a tutorial on who we were, what we did, where we were from. We had to showcase work that we had done. And so we made it to the next round, and then we had to do an interview process. And obviously they think that me and Garland's that dynamic duo that you were talking about, they like that. But what they don't know is that I'm pretty OCD, and my loving husband is like ADD. So that fine line of like, I love you, honey, or I want to kill you today.
My wife and I can relate to that, but we don't work together. So I bet it's really interesting to watch y'all work together.
Yes, it's very interesting. So stay tuned for that, because I'm sure that they'll showcase that a lot. But yeah, then we made it to the next round, and then our amazing community and parish and our tri-parishes, and even our friends from out of state had a chance to get on and vote for us. And we made it to the show. And so we were just told a couple of weeks ago that we are going to be representing Tangipahoa Parish as their remodeling couple for one of the cabins out at Tangy Pines. They just made their announcement yesterday. It's called Cabin Wars, Flip It to Win It. And we will be going against it'll be three total. So two other individuals or couples. We haven't been told who it is yet. They could be a designer or another contractor. And we will be going up against them to see who can produce the best cabin. And so
that's so exciting.
We're excited.
I bet. Well, that's really cool. Well, we're going to watch with bated breath and just be, interested. And of course, this community, as you know, is going to get behind you to root you on, because it's not every day that we see one of our own get an opportunity like that. And, first thought came to mind when you mentioned this to me off air. It's like, wow, y'all could be the next Chip and Joanna Gaines. And then my second thought was, you guys could be bigger. No offense to them, but I could see, I could really see you becoming a sensation in media. So that's exciting. I want to thank you, Garland. Thank you for sharing your wife, your partner, with us. Erika, thank you. I know your time is so incredibly valuable. Before I let you go, I want to ask you two questions. The first being, thinking of yourself kind of in the shoes of maybe once your mother was with you. If you think about the especially the women, the young, girls to young women who may be watching, but somebody who wants to be you when they grow up, a successful businesswoman, a mom, a good wife, somebody who's doing things in the community, doing things in your business, what advice might you give to someone who's coming up and really admires you and would love to get similar success one day?
Man, so I get this question in all different versions because I like to get on other people's podcasts and be a guest, and I typically get that. It's to be comfortable in your own skin and never settle for no. It's that simple.
That's great advice. Yeah, I love it, and it's right to the point. It's easy to remember, hard to do, but it's
right.
Brilliant advice. So again, thank you for your time. But before we go, is there anything else on your mind, on your heart, anything at all that you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers before we go?
I want my community to know that I always knew how much you loved me, but I am truly humbled by the interaction and feedback that we have received from y'all from the time that we started our business to all the amazing referrals and love that you guys show us. And we just hope that you guys continue to support us, and we will continue to try to support Ponchatoula and our parish in any way that we can. And so if there's anybody out there that just has some questions, reach out. I'm an open book. If there's anybody that has questions about building, you know where to find me. If you want to hear me, join my podcast and listen up because it'll be interesting. And then just for your help to keep following us through Cabin Wars so that we can bring home the win for Tangipahoa Parish.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for your time to our listeners and viewers.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sticking with us. And we'll be back next week. Y'all take care from Ponchatoula Live. We'll hopefully see you soon.